Hi everyone, it's Jennifer from Flux. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make this cute little travel bloom. If you've ever been to the airport and have waited for your luggage and you've seen a sea of suitcases or bags that look identical to yours, and it's very frustrating sometimes trying to find your suitcase, this travel bloom is a great way to not only add a beautiful handmade touch to your travel accessories and bags, but also to help you identify things at the airport. And I've had readers tell me they've even put these on a diaper bag, purse, tote bag, just to kind of spruce it up, give it a little handmade touch. So this is a great gift for someone who is a traveler, or maybe someone who's going on a trip. And it's also a great project for using up some yarn. Now I used certain yarn and a J hook, but we'll get into this a little bit more in a moment, but you can really use any yarn. It's a great way to do a little stash busting in your yarn collection. The finished travel bloom that's shown here measures about 3 inches across and about 5 inches tall from the top of this loop to the bottom of the sleeve. So let's get started. For this project, you'll need a pair of scissors, a 6mm J crochet hook, a tapestry needle, and your yarn. You'll need 3 colors of yarn, 1 color for the flower, 1 color for the hanging loop, and 1 color for the leaf or leaves, depending on how many you want to put onto your travel bloom. So I have here Red Heart Super Saver in lavender, I have Red Heart Baby Hugs in aloe, and I have Red Heart Super Saver in shocking pink. Really, you can use any yarn you like. This is a great candidate for going through your stash and finding some yarn leftovers and things that you may have used for other projects. If you do change the yarn thickness, or if you go thicker or thinner, just check the yarn label for the recommended hook size if you need to change. Now this isn't going to be sized to fit a person, it's just going to be going onto a suitcase or a tote bag or what have you. So it doesn't really need to be a particular size. If your flower ends up being a little bit bigger because you use bigger yarn and a bigger hook, or smaller, it's totally fine. This is a great project to use those leftovers. So feel free to change it up a little bit if you need to. But if you're unsure about your hook, again, feel free to check the yarn label for the recommended hook size for your particular yarn. We're going to begin with the flower. So our travel bloom has 3 components. We're going to do the flower, and then we're going to do the hanging loop, and then the leaf, and then we're going to seam it all together. So let's begin with the flower. I'm going to be doing my flower in this bright pink. So let's grab our pink yarn, and you can use any colors you like, and it's actually pretty fun to switch it up and experiment and have fun with the colors for this project. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a slip knot on our hook. So to make a slip knot, wrap the yarn around your fingers to make a loop, bring the yarn behind your loop, reach in with your hook, bring up that loop and tighten. Our flower has a starting chain of 16. So to make a chain, wrap yarn around hook and bring it through the loop. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. And try to make those chains fairly loose because we're going to be working into those. So in the 4th chain from the hook, so this loop here does not count. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this chain right here, we're going to work a double crochet. So to make a double crochet, wrap yarn around hook, insert the hook into the chain, and bring up a loop. Wrap yarn around hook, bring through the first 2 loops, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops on your hook. Then work another double crochet into the same chain. So by working into the 4th chain from our hook, that counted as one of our double crochets. So in each chain after this, we're going to work 3 double crochets in each chain, okay? So 1, 2, 3, get some more yarn. Next chain, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So what we're doing is we're making kind of a rosette that's going to coil. You can already see that happening. And how that works is we're putting a lot of stitches into each chain. We're kind of crowding this chain that we've made. So it's forcing it to coil and curl up. So it makes a really neat flower effect. So we're just working 3 double crochets in each chain all the way across. So that's 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. Next chain. 1, 2, and 3. Get some more yarn here. Next chain. 1, 2, 3. Just have a few more chains left. This is a very quick little project. 1, 2, 3. Next chain. 1, 2, 3. Next chain. 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, 3 double crochet. We have 2 chains left, so we're just going to do the same thing. 1, 2, 3, and the last chain of our row here. 1, 2, and 3. Okay? So it doesn't look very much like a flower right now. It looks pretty messy and jumbled up, but that's okay. This is how we want it to look at this point. So what we're going to do next is grab our scissors and just cut the yarn and fasten off. Okay, so you'll have 2 tails, one where you started and one where you finished. And then we're just going to coil this rose right up. Okay, so it looks like a flower now. We're just going to put that aside for a moment. And then we're going to move on to the leaf. I'm going to grab this pretty green. We're done with the pink. We can slide that over for now, and we'll just slide our flower over here. Okay, so let's move on to the leaf next. Okay, our leaf is super simple. It's completed in just 1 round. Okay, so we're going to put a slip knot on our hook, same way we did before when we did our flower. And we're just going to tighten this onto our hook. Next, we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. In the chain farthest from our hook, so this one way out here, we're going to insert the hook into the chain. We're going to join with a slip knot, a slip stitch, excuse me. So insert the hook into that chain farthest from your hook, bring up a loop. Now bring that loop through the loop already on your hook. We now have our little ring that we'll be working all of our stitches into. And this tail, we're going to hold this along the edge as we work. And that will weave that in as we go along. So to begin, we're going to work into the center of the ring 6 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, get some more yarn, 4, 5, and 6. This is going to form the rounded bottom portion of our leaf. Okay? Next, we're going to work 4 single crochets into the center of the ring. So insert your hook into the center, bring up a loop, yarn around hook, bring it through both loops. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? If you need to push things over a bit to make some space, that's perfectly fine too. All right, let's make the top point of our leaf. We just, with these single crochets, that formed the side of our leaf. Now the top point, we're going to make a treble crochet. So wrap yarn around hook 2 times, insert it into the center, bring up a loop. Wrap yarn around hook, bring through the first 2 loops. Wrap yarn around hook, bring through the next 2 loops. Wrap yarn around hook, bring through the last 2 loops on your hook. Okay, so that will form that top point of our leaf. Then to finish up our leaf, we're going to go back down the side by working 4 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3. Actually, that one looks a little bit loose to me, so let me redo 3. Sometimes if you have to pull something out and redo it, that's perfectly fine and nice, makes it nice and neat too. Okay, and 4. Okay, then we'll join with a slip stitch to complete our leaf. Insert the hook into that first stitch you worked. Bring up a loop. Now bring that loop through the loop already on your hook. And our leaf is complete. It looks a little goofy right now. We're going to straighten things out a little bit. With those tiny 1 round projects, you have to straighten things up a bit. So go ahead and cut the yarn. Fasten off. Then you can flip things over, and that end that you wove in as you went along, we held along the edge, you can go ahead and pull that really tight and trim. Then what you can do, we'll get all this woven in later. Then what you can do is kind of sharpen up the top of your leaf. Let's get things straightened out. So now we have a leaf and a flower. Now you can make more leaves if you'd like, or you can just continue to the next part, our hanging strap. I'm going to go ahead, I think, and make a second leaf for mine, and then we'll rejoin in just a moment. Okay, so I went ahead and made a second leaf, so that'll kind of frame our little rose out nicely. Okay, so next, the final component to our travel bloom, and I'm just going to straighten out this yarn balls. Got it all messy. Okay, there we go. We're going to make the strap, and that will hang our travel bloom onto a tote bag strap. Now, if you need a longer strap for your travel bloom, just simply make more chains. And if you need to put the strap on and then seam it, you know, just when we put it together, just seam it on one side, and I'll show you what I mean in just a moment. Okay, so what we're going to do is put a slip knot on our hook, and then we're going to chain 24. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Get some more yarn. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. So like I said before, if you need your hanging loop to be a little bit bigger, just make more chains. Now you can kind of hold things up. So our hanging loop is going to be, if we lay it out here, if we connect the 2 ends like that, our hanging loop is going to be about that big. So as you're making yours, it'll look like that when it's finished. So as you're making yours, if you need a little bit more length, just make some more chains at this point. Okay? So in the second chain from the hook, again, this loop here does not count. 1, 2, we're going to work a slip stitch into that chain. So insert your hook into the chain, bring up a loop. Now bring that loop through the loop already on your hook. Okay? Then we're going to go all the way across, working slip stitches all the way across. So this will give us a sturdy hanging loop that's not too overly thick and bulky. Okay, you can already see it starting to emerge. So we're just working slip stitches all the way across. Insert your hook, bring up a loop, bring that loop through the loop already on your hook. All the way across. This is a really quick way to make a nice sturdy little rope. Okay, all the way across. Then once we finish our hanging loop, we can seam everything together. and then we're at the last chain. Okay, so then we can cut our yarn, and I am going to cut a little bit longer than I normally do because we're going to use some of these ends to seam everything together. Okay, so just fasten off and our hanging loop is complete. Okay, so then we have our components. We have our hanging loop, we have our leaf or leaves, whatever you chose to make, and our bloom. So let's get our tapestry needle because we're going to go to work seaming all these parts. Okay, so your rose has two ends. You'll have one where you began and one where you ended up on the end here. So take the one that's closer in, and we're just going to weave that in. We're not going to really mess with that end. So just very quickly, just weave that in. A lot of this is going to be concealed when we seam all this together. And then you can trim. Now this other end that we have here, we're going to actually use that end to bring this coil together and keep it all together. Okay, so get your rose kind of situated the way you want it to go, and then flip it over, and then just come in a little bit with your needle so you don't have this geometric point there, but just bring it in a little bit to get rid of that sharp edge. See how it kind of brought it in? Now come up through the middle and then back down. We're seaming the rose together. Now, we don't want to do too many stitches for our rose because it'll flatten it out. But at the same time, we don't want to do too little stitches, if that's the right way to say that, because it'll look all floppy and sloppy, okay? So I think that's sufficient. So we can just kind of leave that there for a moment. Okay, so let's take our, actually, you know what, let me go ahead and knot this off while we're here. Okay, so just come in with the needle and come back through and then just knot that off, okay? Then you can just cut that because it's going to be hidden anyway. Okay, so our rose is ready to go. Next, we can take and thread. Now, if you remember before, we trimmed the inner tail of our leaf, but we still have this side tail. So position it where you'd like it to go on the rose, and then just seam it right onto the back of the rose. Okay, just a few well-placed stitches is all it takes. We don't need to go overboard. And just come back in through that last loop, and that way you can just knot it off. And I didn't come all the way through, so I'm going to fiddle with mine a little bit. There we go. It kind of split. There we go. Okay. Then you can kind of just trim that, and that leaf is attached. Okay. Now, if you made another leaf, you can go ahead and seam the leaf onto your rose. Now you can do it on opposite, or you can do it kind of like it's growing, how they kind of cluster like that when they grow. Okay, and just a couple well-placed stitches to securely hold it on there. Okay, and then I like to peek before I fasten it off just to make sure it's how I want it to look. Okay, so come in that last time and then go through that last loop, and that way you can knot it off. Okay, then we're just going to cut. Okay, so the flower's looking good, the leaves are where I want them to be, and the hanging loop. So this side, we can cut one of these tails. We don't need both of these tails. We can thread one of the tails. And then what we're going to do is bring the ends together, just like that, and then go through the top one, through the bottom, and then just kind of bring them together like that, okay? Then figure out where you'd like it to go. Do you want your leaves at the top? Do you want them more on the side? I kind of like mine on the side like that. I think that looks cute. And then flip it over, and then just seam everything together. And this, again, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this is a really fantastic way to get rid of some extra yarn in a useful and pretty way. And I've actually given these as gifts for someone going on a trip. It's a really thoughtful little quick present you can give someone who's going on a trip or going away somewhere. Okay, so we're just going to knot that off. Nice secure knot. And then you can just weave that in. Now when you weave in ends where you've used multiple yarns in multiple colors, just try and weave it into the color of the yarn that you're using. So I wove the purple into the purple, for example, and the green into the green only. And then you can straighten everything out and it looks really, really pretty. And you know, I've had a couple of readers on the Fiber Flux blog even tell me that they've used this as a way to decorate their purse. And I thought that was a really cute idea to kind of give your purse a little handmade touch. Okay, the very last thing I want to show you is how to actually put this on your bag. Now you can do this one of two ways. Before putting the hanging loop on, I had a reader had a great idea, and she actually used a safety pin just to hold her hanging loop. That way she could take it on and pull it off if you want it to kind of hang down a little bit like this. If you want to if you've already seamed it and you want to just kind of throw it on the handle real quick, this is what I do. Take the flower like this and put it behind the tote bag strap or the suitcase handle or whatever you're putting it on. And this will give you just enough room to slip the flower through. So we're just going to slip this flower through here. Just be very careful not to mess up your beautiful stitch work. And then just send it through. And then you'll just tighten. And then your bloom will be right on your handle, just like that. And this is a tote bag, so this wouldn't be traveling, you know, through an airport or anything like that. But it does make a really pretty little accessory for your purse as well. So anywhere you travel, whether it be across the world or to the grocery store, you know, you can really decorate your bags and totes and suitcases. So thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the subscribe button to get all the latest Fiber Flux video updates. Thanks again.